What's up everyone, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful 24 official channel. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button today. Let's get started. As Lee loses her mind over her disappearance, Luna dupes Will into having sex. The Bold and the Beautiful. Will thinks Luna is Electra, Deacon updates Sheila, and Electra decides she's ready. In Deacon's and Yu's apartment, Will sleeps as Luna looms over him wearing Electra's discarded mask and thinks about the journey that led her to this moment. Approaching the bed, Luna murmurs, "Tonight's the night, Will." Will rolls over and looks through blurry eyes at what he thinks is Electra. "You came back," he grins. Luna joins him on the bed. He begins undressing, and she kisses his chest. When she undresses, Will calls her Electra. Down in the restaurant, Deacon crows to Sheila about the money they brought in tonight. Sheila's proud of him. It looks like everyone had a lot of fun. Deacon chuckles that Will sure did. He had to prevent him from continuing to drink and from pursuing Electra. Sheila and Deacon banter and he's sure to bring up her 8 toes. She inquires whether Will and Electra were fighting. Deacon says no, but he didn't want him stumbling out of there making a fool of himself. He is sleeping it off upstairs. Sheila figures he didn't eat enough. Deacon rants about the kids today being afraid of carbohydrates. Sheila worries that Deacon should have sent Will home. He says he texted Katie and told her not to worry. "I handled it." Deacon irks his wife by adding he didn't want problems here, they've had enough thanks to Luna. Quickly apologizing, Deacon heads up to take a shower. Sheila takes another call from Lee, panicking over Luna's disappearance. At the Forrester mansion, Electra updates Ivy on the wild party. She's never seen Will so buzzed. Ivy asks if that's why she left. Electra confides he wanted to continue the party with just the two of them alone. She's sure Will wouldn't want that to have been their first time with alcohol clouding it. Ivy chirps that when it happens, she'll know she's ready. Electra gushes about Will being sweet and sexy. She wants their first time to be special, and tonight was not the night. But as it turns out, tomorrow night might be the night. It will, Ivy is certain, be magical. In Deacon's and Yu's apartment, Luna does her best Electra, telling Will that he's been so patient and now tonight's the night. She climbs aboard and they kiss. Electra sends Will a text that she loves him and can't wait for tomorrow night while she is alone in the Forrester mansion. Mid-romp, Will grabs his phone and reads Electra's text, but the implications don't register. He drops it and continues making out with Luna. When he removes her mask, she turns away from him in the dark to hide her face. The mask falls to the floor as they have sex. Will is texting Electra while he is in bed with Luna. The Bold and the Beautiful reveals that Electra Forrester texted Will Spencer while he was in bed with Luna Nozawa, so here's how all the drama played out. At the Forrester mansion, Electra was in her pajamas with Ivy Forrester as she talked about the wild party and how buzzed Will got. Electra seemed amused over Will's behavior, but she also didn't want him drunk for their first time together. However, Electra felt like Will was her person and hinted to Ivy about being ready for the next step with him. Maybe even tomorrow night. Ivy was excited over that news and predicted that things would be magical since Electra waited for the right guy. In Deacon Sharp's spare room, B&B fans saw Will's fuzzy point of view as he smiled over Electra coming back. It was actually Luna wearing the same mask Electra wore earlier, but Will assumed it was his girlfriend and stripped down. Will kept muttering Electra's name and tried to take Luna's mask off, but she stopped him at first. Luna eventually got more into the passion and removed the mask, so it wound up on the floor near the bed. Between the darkness of the room and her position on the bed, Luna was still able to hide her identity from Will. Back with Electra, she texted Will about how much she loved him and how she couldn't wait for tomorrow night. Luna saw the text on Will's phone, but she was able to keep his attention on her. Meanwhile, Deacon Sharp told Sheila about how drunk Will got and how he took him to the spare room to sleep it off. Sheila assumed Will didn't eat enough to keep up with his alcohol consumption and thought maybe Deacon should have sent Will home. Deacon assured Sheila that he gave Katie Logan updates on the situation and that Will was fine sleeping it off there. Talk eventually turned to Luna again, so Deacon apologized for bringing up a delicate subject and seemed eager to continue his private celebration with Sheila. In a moment alone, Sheila spoke with Lee on the phone and admitted she still hadn't seen Luna. Although Sheila suggested Luna probably just needed a walk and some fresh air after being cooped up, Lee worried since she'd been gone for hours. Lee feared that if she was caught and returned to prison, all of her plans for Luna would be destroyed. The Bold and the Beautiful say Luna will make some other shocking moves in the coming episodes, so don't miss all the action. In the dimly lit confines of Deacon's vacant apartment, the night assumed a surreal and perilous quality as Will Spencer lay sprawled on the bed, caught between drunkenness and dreams, his head weighed down by the effects of excessive alcohol consumption. Meanwhile, Luna Nozawa, already engulfed in her own shadows, stood silently above him, adorned in the discarded mask left by Electra Forrester earlier. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts that had led her to this startling moment. As she leaned in closer, her voice quivering, she whispered, "Tonight's the night, Will." The disoriented young Spencer opened his eyes, his blurred vision instantly recognizing what his hopeful, inebriated heart yearned to see the image of Electra returning to him. This prompted a grin of relief and joy as he murmured, "You came back." Encouraged by his misunderstanding, Luna slid onto the bed beside him, planting kisses along his chest. In his drunken eagerness, he began to undress, repeatedly muttering Electra's name, oblivious to the fact that he was not in the embrace of the girl he cherished but rather in the clutches of her cunning rival. Meanwhile, downstairs at Il Giardino's restaurant, Deacon Sharp reveled in the success of the evening's event, boasting to Sheila Carter about the substantial profits they had generated, his eyes sparkling with pride as Sheila, ever attuned to mischief and danger, she smiled proudly at her husband, acknowledging that it appeared everyone had a good time. However, Deacon, unable to resist a sly remark, chuckled that no one had as much fun as young Will, recalling how he had to step in when Will nearly drank himself into a stupor and tried to pursue Electra in a drunken state. This was something Deacon had prevented before it could escalate, yet even while recounting the tale, he could not help but make light of it, joking about Will's inebriated antics as Sheila asked if Will and Electra had been arguing. Deacon replied no, but insisted that he did not want Will to stumble out and embarrass himself, so he had arranged for him to sleep it off in the spare room upstairs. He dismissed Sheila's concern that perhaps Will hadn't consumed enough food to absorb the alcohol by launching into a tirade about kids these days being afraid of carbohydrates, ridiculing their diets while Sheila rolled her eyes. Her exasperation grew when Deacon casually mentioned that he had texted Katie Logan to reassure her that Will was safe, declaring, "I handled it," in a tone that suggested he believed the matter was settled. Sheila cautioned him that Will should have likely been sent home, particularly considering their past issues with trouble involving Luna. When Deacon inadvertently brought up Luna again, Sheila's irritation flared until he quickly apologized, assuring her he did not wish to spoil the evening and hurried upstairs to shower, leaving Sheila alone with her ringing phone, the caller none other than Lee Finnegan. Panicked and spiraling, she disclosed that Luna had vanished and she was unable to locate her anywhere, her voice trembling with desperation as Sheila tried to soothe her by proposing that Luna might have merely stepped outside for some fresh air after being confined for too long. However, even as she spoke, Sheila's intuition was tinged with discomfort, as she was aware of Luna's previous patterns of erratic behavior. Meanwhile, at the Forrester mansion across town, Electra Forrester, now comfortably dressed in her pajamas, excitedly recounted to Ivy Forrester the details of the wild party, sharing how intoxicated Will had become. Her voice was a blend of amusement and affection as she explained that his eager, slightly uncoordinated energy had led her to leave early, before the night escalated too far. She realized that when Will had wanted to take the party to another level, she did not want their first intimate moment to be overshadowed by alcohol. She insisted that when they finally crossed that threshold, she desired it to be clear, beautiful, and memorable, something magical for both of them to treasure. Ivy, ever the romantic, chirped her agreement and reassured Electra that when the moment arrived, she would know she was ready. This prompted Electra to rave about how sweet and attractive Will was, her excitement evident as she confessed that although tonight had not been the night, tomorrow could be, as she felt herself on the verge of surrendering to her love for him. This declaration thrilled Ivy, who predicted that it would indeed be magical when it finally occurred. Meanwhile, as this tender conversation unfolded, the cruel irony was that upstairs in Deacon's apartment, Luna, donning Electra's mask and mimicking her mannerisms, was telling the bewildered and buzzed Will the very same thing, whispering that he had been so patient and now, tonight's the night. These words completely convinced him that his girlfriend had returned to him, leading him to embrace Luna as she positioned herself atop him, kissing and moving against him, their passion intensifying even as Electra, at that precise moment. Will sent a text from the Forrester mansion expressing her love and her eagerness for the following night, the moment she truly envisioned for their union. Unfortunately, in a moment of passion, Will picked up his phone during an intimate encounter, glanced at the message, and smiled. However, in his inebriated state, he failed to grasp the significance of the message, merely assuming it validated his belief that Electra was with him in that bed. He then tossed the phone aside and resumed kissing Luna, who expertly diverted his attention from the reality, even as he repeatedly murmured Electra's name and attempted to remove her mask. This prompted her to turn away, desperate to conceal her face in the shadows, until the mask eventually slipped and fell to the floor beside the bed, technically revealing Luna's identity but still obscured by darkness and their positioning as they crossed into intimacy. Meanwhile, Sheila continued her conversation with Lee, whose anxiety over Luna's absence intensified as she expressed her fears about the repercussions if Luna were discovered and sent back to prison, terrified that all her meticulously crafted plans for her daughter's future would collapse. Sheila, caught between empathy and her growing suspicions, attempted to minimize the danger, though her thoughts could not dismiss the increasing apprehension regarding Luna's true activities. As the night progressed, the harsh duality of Will's reality became more pronounced while Electra sat in her room, envisioning the enchanting first night she would share with the boy she adored and sending him messages of her commitment. Will was unknowingly entangled with her impersonator, surrendering to Luna's ruse. This twist of fate was bound to unleash chaos when the truth eventually surfaced, for in the dramatic realm of the bold and the beautiful, secrets like these rarely remained concealed for long, and when they erupted, they invariably caused more destruction than anyone could foresee.